are enough. Republicans, meantime, condemning the move. Corey Stewart is chairman of the Prince William Board. Mark Levine is a talk show host. It's good to have both of you here. Important topic, interesting time. Thanks very much for coming in.
My pleasure.
Corey,
thanks for having
Corey
us.
Stewart, the president's remarks had been, the substance of the president, of his speech to the nation was telegraphed in advance. We knew what he was going to say, basically. As you heard his words, what thoughts and feelings did you have?
Well, I don't think that what he's done is going to have any sort of lasting effect. I mean, this is an executive order. It can be easily undone by the following president, be they Democrat or Republican. And anytime a president tries to overstep their bounds or even do something without the support of the other party, that doesn't tend to last long. So I'm not concerned about it having a long-term policy effect on immigration policy. I am concerned, however, about some of the people he's going to be giving sanctuary to, and the fact that some of them do in fact have criminal records, and so that's my main concern.
Is it amnesty?
Well, it is an amnesty. It's not a permanent amnesty. It does give shielding to these people who would otherwise be deported, and some of them, you know, there's not a lot of concern about if they're just here and they're here illegally and they're working. But for a lot of them, in our experience, we know that they do in fact have criminal records. Some of them do, and those are the ones that we're most concerned about on a local level.
Mark, you're shaking your head.
Well, that's exactly the opposite of what President Obama said. There are 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. President Obama has deported almost twice as much as George Bush has. It's about 400,000 a year now, and he wants to focus on deporting the criminals. You cannot deport them all. Congress, Republicans in Congress won't give him enough money to deport them all. So he's saying, let's focus on the criminals. More criminals will be deported under this plan, Corey, than under the plan where you go and you break up families and you break up hardworking people and you let the criminals stay. He wants to focus on the criminals, and I think most Americans support that.
What did you make of the decision to take action now, having a parent, I mean, he's telling Congress, send me a bill, and if you do, I'll rescind the actions I'm taking now. But some argue that we're in a new time. Republicans scored significant victories at the ballot box and will soon have the majority in the Senate. Would he have been better off waiting?
No. I mean, he waited very, very long. A year and a half ago, the Senate, by 68 votes, 14 Republicans, including people I don't think you'd call liberals, John McCain, Jeff Flake, Orrin Hatch, Lindsey Graham. It was a strong bipartisan bill. It was actually pretty tough on these immigrants. They had to wait 10 years and get in line behind others to get a green card. It provided border security. It was a good, strong bipartisan bill. This bill today and in the new Congress would overwhelmingly pass the House of Representatives. Probably get 2/3 of the votes. Speaker Boehner will not bring it up because Republicans like the current policy better than the bipartisan bill passed by the Senate. I don't know why. The current policy doesn't make any sense. The Republicans should get to work, pass a bill. They can do it now. They can do it in the new Congress, and this will overturn everything.
Corey Stewart, let me go back to the first point Mark made about the criminal, supposed criminal element. I didn't hear the president say that he wants to shield those with records. In fact, I'm pretty sure he thought, he said the opposite, and so the thinking would be the executive orders would follow the rhetoric.
Well, you have to understand that there's a big difference between what the president says and what's happening on the ground. And we've seen this over, not just with the Obama administration, but with the Bush administration as well, is they say they don't want to provide sanctuary to criminals. But when you look at his policy, the executive order carefully, and you look at what the administration has done in the past, they only, who they consider criminals are felons. We have a whole series in Prince William County alone of people who have committed very serious misdemeanors, malicious wounding, sexual assault, domestic assault, indecent liberties with children. And under the president's policy, those aren't considered serious crimes. They're not felonies, but they certainly do endanger the public. And those people have been released by the president, by the administration, and they're going to continue to be released and now provided sanctuary under the president's policy. That's our main concern.
If that's true, Mark Levine, people listening to this conversation today will, I suspect, find that troubling.
Well, I would hope that Corey and I would agree with President Obama. Let's get rid of those people and let the people here who have families, who haven't committed a crime, who've been here 20, 30 years, let them stay. What Corey's arguing, in fact, is let the criminals stay while we deport the good guys, and that doesn't make any sense. What President Obama has said is let's focus on the criminals first. Let's you and I agree that unless you provide enough money to deport all 11 million, which maybe you want to do and tax people to do that. But unless you want to do that, we have to pick the worst people first. That's what President Obama wants to do, including those people in Prince William County.
You and I would agree that
let's
you
get
need
those
to
people
focus on
first.
the criminals.
Absolutely.
What I'm saying is that the Obama administration is not doing that.
That's what the executive order does,
well,
though.
The executive order says that if you have a felony, you're not eligible for this amnesty or the sanctuary. But there's a whole lot of people who are very serious criminals, malicious wounding, sexual assault, domestic assault. You would agree that those are serious crimes.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you have to undergo a full background check.
They are going to be provided sanctuary under this policy, and that's the main concern. At this point, a locality such as Prince William County can no longer defend its citizens when the federal government is giving sanctuary to criminals who are here illegally.
So are you saying you would support this executive action if you and I and President Obama agree to deport everybody with a serious misdemeanor and felony and let the people who have nothing on their record stay? Are you agreeing with that?
Here's the thing.
Because Republicans could pass that tomorrow.
I'm not in Congress, but what I am saying from a very practical perspective as a leader of a large jurisdiction is that this is why the president cannot just go on his own and develop policy by himself.
So why won't the Republicans do it? Why won't they do it?
He needs to work together with the Republicans.
Why won't Republicans pass a bill, any bill, in 8 years?
There is some perhaps understanding as to why the president felt he needed to strike out on his own, because coming out of the 2012 election, there seemed to be a pretty palpable sense in Washington that immigration was teed up as an issue that could move forward. Democrats because they sort of wanted it, and Republicans, looking at how Mitt Romney fared at the ballot box compared to, say, George Bush, there was a sense that the Republicans needed it. So and maybe it was just the talking heads being talking heads, but there was this moment after 2012, it seemed, where immigration was ripe, and yet nothing happened. A bill did come out of the Senate, Corey, that had bipartisan support, and a lot of people believe, as Mark just stated, that Speaker Boehner didn't bring it up, not because he disliked it, but because it had the votes to pass, and he was concerned that some members of his caucus might end up in a primary.
Well, I think as well they should, and I'll tell you why. That previous legislation did not provide for interior security. It did not provide to allow local law enforcement agencies to effectively remove people from this country by sending them over to ICE, who in fact have criminal records and have problems. And it's not just about border security. You have to provide a means of removing those individuals who are criminals, who've committed crimes that endanger the public safety, and that's why I believe Republicans did not support that previous effort.
ICE is?
Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
And that's an agency you've butted heads with about policy and just getting data.
On the ground, we work with them very well. It's the policy heads at the top that are providing the problems.
Quick thought, Mark, before we go to break.
I was going to say the immigration law is already pretty harsh. People could be deported for using marijuana. It's that small a violation. And so the answer is, if the Republicans don't like the specifics, they know what they can do. They can pass a law in the House. The Senate bill was supported by George Bush, supported by John McCain, supported by all the moderate Republicans. It seems to me that Corey and the House should get behind it.
Gentlemen, stand by for just a moment. Corey Stewart, Mark Levine, stand by. We'll take a break here. We'll continue our conversation in a moment. We'll work in your phone calls as well. Those of you watching After Dark can find the next segment of News Talk online at news8newstalk.com. That's news8newstalk.com. Welcome back to News Talk and our debate on President Obama's action on immigration. Talk show host Mark Levine and Prince William County Board Chairman Corey Stewart with us this time. Glad to have you there. If you have questions or comments on this topic, grab an open line and join the conversation at the number we'll post to the bottom of the screen. There it is, 703-387-1020. Write it down or simply call in. We have open lines now, and we would love to hear from you. Whatever your perspective on this issue is, whatever you thought as you listened to the president the other night and have listened to his commentary since. Join us. Let's make this a two-way dialogue. 703-387-1020. That is our number here. There seems to be, gentlemen, a difference of opinion, a disagreement about whether what Mr. Obama is doing in the use of executive action goes beyond what other presidents have done. Some postings on the internet, online, suggest that other presidents in both parties have done similar to what Mr. Obama is doing now. Mark, is that really true?
Every president in the last 60 years has issued an executive order on immigration, dating back to Eisenhower. There's some 39 executive orders on immigration. Perhaps the most famous is George Bush Sr., when what did he do? He allowed 40% of the undocumented immigrants at that time not to be deported, the ones that had not committed crimes in terms of family unification. And I don't recall any talk about impeaching George Bush Sr. because of that. Basically, Congress has not given enough money to the president to deport all 11 million people. He cannot legally do that. He doesn't have the resources to do that. Republicans won't raise taxes to do that. He has to pick and choose. He's picking the criminals first.
Corey
Right
Stewart, is there a double standard?
Oh, absolutely. I think, of course, we're both lawyers. I mean,